Restaurant manager kicks out Travis Kelce regrets. It at 2025 Canadian U18 Curling Championships. Travis Kelce was not the type to demand special treatment, but on this particular night, he was about to be treated like he did not belong. After landing in Saskatchewan for the 2025 Canadian U18 Curling Championships, Kelce decided to grab dinner at a well-known steakhouse downtown. Dressed casually in a hoodie and jeans, he walked in, expecting a quiet meal before the big event. The restaurant was packed, but as soon as Kelce reached the host stand, the manager, Dennis Harper, sized him up with a skeptical look. "Do you have a reservation?" Dennis asked, his tone already dismissive. Kelce smiled. "No, but I do not mind waiting for a table." Dennis frowned. "I'm sorry, but we're at capacity, and we have a very strict dress code." Kelce raised an eyebrow. "Dress code?" Dennis folded his arms. "Yes. We cater to an elite clientele. No hoodies, no sneakers. You might be more comfortable somewhere less upscale." A few guests at nearby tables started whispering. They recognized Kelce instantly. One of the greatest tight ends in NFL history being turned away like some random nobody? Kelce let out a small chuckle. "Are you sure about that?" Dennis nodded, his expression firm. "We have a reputation to uphold. We simply cannot make exceptions." Kelce took a step back, nodded, and without another word, walked out. What Dennis did not know was that in less than 24 hours, Kelce would not just be another guest. He would be the most important person in the entire city. And when Dennis finally realized who he had just kicked out, it would be too late. Dennis Harper watched as Travis Kelce walked out of the restaurant, feeling a sense of satisfaction. To him, rules were rules, and if someone did not fit the image of his elite clientele, they did not belong. But within minutes, whispers started spreading through the dining area. "Did he just kick out Travis Kelce?" one man murmured to his wife. "Does he even know who that was?" another customer whispered. A waiter, who had been clearing a nearby table, leaned over to Dennis. Sir, that was Travis Kelce. You know, NFL superstar?" Dennis scoffed. "So what? This isn't a football stadium. This is a high-class restaurant." The waiter hesitated. "He's not just here for fun. He's in town for the Canadian U18 Curling Championships. They're honoring him tomorrow." Dennis froze. "Honoring him?" The waiter nodded. "Yeah, he's the guest of honor. Major sponsors, media, big. Names everyone's gonna be there." A sinking feeling settled in Dennis's stomach. He had just kicked out the most important VIP in the city and the night before a major event where he was supposed to be the center of attention. And worse, people had seen it. As Dennis glanced around, he noticed customers murmuring, a few pulling out their phones. Had someone recorded it? Was this already spreading online? His heart pounded. He needed to fix this, fast. But what Dennis didn't realize was that by the next day, his biggest mistake would be exposed to the entire city. Dennis Harper barely slept that night. The moment he learned that Travis Kelce was the guest of honor at the Canadian U18 Curling Championships, panic set in. What if people started talking? What if the restaurant's reputation took a hit? The next morning, as he walked into work, his worst fear became reality. His phone buzzed with a notification, then another, and another. He opened his social media feed and there it was. A video. Someone had recorded the exact moment he kicked Travis Kelce out. The caption, "NFL superstar denied service at Saskatoon's elite steakhouse." Was it a mistake? Dennis's stomach dropped. The video had already gone viral. Hundreds of comments flooded. "This is embarrassing. Do they not know who Travis Kelce is? Another case of judging someone by their looks. Bet they regret it now. This won't age well once they realize he's the VIP at today's event." Dennis ran a hand through his hair. This was a disaster. Before he could even think of damage control, the restaurant phone rang. Dennis?" a hostess called out. There's a man on the line. He says he's with Canadian U18 Curling Champions. Dennis's breath caught. He already knew what this call was about, and he knew it wasn't going to be good. Dennis Harper grabbed the phone with sweaty hands. "This is Dennis. How can I help you?" A deep voice responded. "Mr. Harper, this is Daniel Reynolds, director of the Canadian U18 Curling Championships. I believe you know why I'm calling." Dennis swallowed hard. If this is about last night, Reynolds didn't let him finish. "It is about last night. Do you realize you turned away Travis Kelce, our guest of honor?" Dennis closed his eyes. "I had no idea it was him." Reynolds sighed. "Well, now everyone does. The video is everywhere. Sponsors have already called, and people are questioning whether your restaurant discriminates against guests based on appearance." Dennis's stomach churned. "Look, I made a mistake. I'd be happy to personally apologize to Mr. Kelce." Reynolds let out a dry chuckle. "You might not get that chance." Dennis's grip tightened on the phone. "What do you mean?" Reynolds paused. "Let's just say there's been talk about moving our VIP dinner to a different venue, a place that actually respects its guests." Dennis's face turned pale. The VIP dinner, the event that would bring in the city's most powerful figures, major sponsors, and media attention, was slipping away. "Wait, please," Dennis blurted out. "There must be something I can do." Reynolds sighed. "I'll think about it, but you better hope Kelce is as forgiving as he is talented." The line went dead. Dennis set the phone down, his heart pounding. He had made a huge mistake, and now he had to fix it before it destroyed everything. Dennis Harper set the phone down, his hands shaking. Losing the VIP dinner would be a financial and reputational disaster. The Canadian U18 Curling Championships wasn't just a small event, it was one of the biggest sports gatherings in the country. And now, because of his mistake, his restaurant might be cut from it entirely. Dennis took a deep breath. He had to fix this. He pulled out his phone and immediately searched for any way to contact Travis Kelce, his official website, social media, accounts, anything. But the reality was, NFL superstars don't just take random phone calls from restaurant managers who disrespected them. After a few minutes of searching, he found the event itinerary for the curling championships. Kelce was scheduled to attend a press conference later that afternoon. That was his chance. Dennis grabbed his coat and rushed out of the restaurant. He didn't care if he had to wait. Outside the venue all day, he needed to speak to Kelce. By the time he arrived at the conference hall, a crowd had already gathered. Reporters, curling, athletes, and event staff were preparing for the press event. Dennis spotted Daniel Reynolds, the director who had called him earlier. He approached quickly. "Mr. Reynolds," Dennis said, slightly out of breath, "I need to make things right. I need to talk to Travis." Reynolds folded his arms. "Kelce doesn't owe you his time, Harper. If anything, you owe him an apology, and you'll be lucky if he even listens." Dennis nodded. "That's exactly why I'm here." Reynolds sighed and glanced toward the main entrance. "He should be arriving soon. If you're serious, you better be ready." Dennis turned, his pulse racing, and just then, Travis Kelce stepped out of a black SUV, surrounded by security. The moment of truth had arrived.
Dennis had one shot to make things right, and he had no idea how Kelce was going to react. Dennis Harper swallowed hard as Travis Kelce stepped out of the SUV, towering over most of the people around him. The energy in the air shifted, cameras flashed, reporters murmured, and security cleared a path for the NFL superstar. This was Dennis's only chance. Summoning his courage, he stepped forward, his hands sweating. "Mr. Kelce!" he called out, his voice cracking slightly. Kelce turned, his eyes narrowing as he recognized Dennis. He remembered. Security moved in, but Kelce raised a hand, signaling them to stand down. He looked Dennis up and down, his expression unreadable. "Can I help you?" he asked flatly. Dennis took a shaky breath. "I messed up." Kelce didn't say anything, waiting. "Last night at my restaurant, I didn't recognize you. I judged you by how you looked, and I treated you unfairly. I realize now how wrong that was." Kelce crossed his arms. "Now you recognize me, huh?" Dennis felt his face burn with shame. I do, but that's not why I'm here. He took a deep breath. I want to apologize not because you're famous, not because of the backlash, but because I disrespected someone who deserved better. Kelce studied him for a moment, then let out a small chuckle. Gotta admit, not many people would own up to something like that in front of cameras. Dennis hesitated. I also know the event organizers are considering pulling the VIP dinner from my restaurant. I wanted to make things right before that happens. Kelce tilted his head. So you're not here just to save your business? Dennis shook his head. I know I might lose the dinner, but I couldn't let this go without apologizing to you first. Kelce exhaled, looking toward Daniel Reynolds, who had been watching the exchange. Then he turned back to Dennis. All right, apology accepted. Dennis blinked. Wait, really? Kelce smirked. Yeah, but I gotta ask, if I walked into your place today dressed the same way, would you still treat me like I don't belong? Dennis felt a lump in his throat. Number never again. Kelce gave him a nod. Good, 'cause respect shouldn't be about money or status. It should be about how you treat people, period. Dennis nodded, feeling the weight of his mistake settle in. And as Kelce turned toward the press conference, Dennis knew one thing. He had learned a lesson he wouldn't forget. Dennis Harper stood frozen as Travis Kelce walked toward the press conference. The apology had been accepted, but the real question remained, would his restaurant still lose the VIP dinner? As Dennis turned to leave, Daniel Reynolds approached him. You got lucky, Reynolds said, arms crossed. Kelce would have embarrassed you in front of everyone, but he didn't. Dennis sighed. I know. I deserve worse. Reynolds studied him for a moment. Tell me something. If we keep the VIP dinner at your restaurant, what changes? Dennis didn't hesitate. Everything. No more judging guests based on looks. No more assumptions. Everyone gets treated with respect. Reynolds nodded. Good answer. Dennis felt his heart pound. So, does that mean the dinner stays? Reynolds smirked. I'll let you know. As Dennis walked away, he knew one thing: whether he got the dinner or not, he had to keep his promise. Because real change wasn't about saving his business, was about becoming better. The day of the VIP dinner arrived, and Dennis Harper still hadn't received an answer from Daniel Reynolds. The uncertainty was eating him alive. Would they still host the most prestigious event of the championship? Or had his mistake cost them everything? Then, just hours before the scheduled dinner, his phone rang. It was Reynolds. Dennis, we've decided to keep the dinner at your restaurant. Dennis nearly dropped the phone. Are you serious? Reynolds chuckled. Kelce insisted. Said everyone deserves a second chance if they prove they're willing to change. Dennis swallowed hard. I won't let him down, or you. That evening, as guests arrived, including Travis Kelce himself, Dennis made sure every customer was treated like a VIP, no matter who they were. As Kelce passed by, he gave Dennis a nod and a smirk. Told you respect should be for everyone. Dennis smiled back. Lesson learned. And this time, he meant it. The VIP dinner was in full swing, and Dennis Harper made sure every guest received top-tier service. There was no more judging based on appearance, no more assumptions, just respect for everyone. As Travis Kelce laughed and mingled with the other attendees, Dennis felt a weight lift from his shoulders. He had gotten a second chance, and this time he wasn't going to waste it. Near the end of the night, Kelce approached the front desk. So, think you'll ever turn someone away based on looks again? Dennis shook his head. Never. This whole experience, it changed how I see people. Kelce smirked. Good. Keep that mindset, and you won't just save your business, you'll make it better. As Kelce walked out, Dennis realized something. Reputation wasn't just about a fancy restaurant or high-profile guests. It was about how you treat people, famous or not. This story is a reminder that first impressions can be deceiving, but respect should be universal. We all have moments where we judge too quickly, but what matters is how we change. So next time you meet someone new, ask yourself, are you treating them with the respect they deserve? Because sometimes the person you least expect might be the most important one in the room.